The Jonestown Massacre, 1978. Paradise Lost. Hit that subscribe button before you take a sip, because this story proves that blind faith can be deadly. It was supposed to be a paradise. Deep in the humid jungles of Guyana, a man named Jim Jones built what he called the People's Temple Agricultural Project. He told his followers it was heaven on earth, a new beginning, free from racism, corruption, and judgment. But by November 1978, that paradise had rotted from the inside. On the morning of November 18th, Guyanese officials received a radio call that sounded like madness. Static filled the line. A trembling voice said only 3 words before it went silent. "They're all dead." When authorities arrived hours later, the smell hit them first. Thick, chemical, and impossible to forget. Bodies lay scattered across the grass in rows. Men, women, children, hundreds of them, all dressed in simple clothes, faces calm, as if they had fallen asleep together. Nearby, a half-empty barrel of purple punch sat tipped on its side, surrounded by paper cups. The label read, "Flavor Aid." Just hours before, Congressman Leo Ryan had flown into Jonestown with a small group of journalists and concerned relatives. They were there to investigate rumors, whispers of imprisonment, manipulation, and fear. For months, defectors had escaped the settlement with stories of abuse, forced labor, and psychological control. They said Jones ruled like a god. At first, everything seemed fine. The visitors were greeted with songs, smiles, and laughter. Cameras captured scenes of families dancing under the tropical sun, a community full of hope. But beneath the surface, the tension was thick. Every smile rehearsed, every word monitored. During a dinner that evening, a young woman slipped a note into a reporter's hand. It read, "Please get us out." That note changed everything. By morning, a handful of residents begged to leave with the congressman. Jones tried to appear calm, but his eyes told a different story. A storm brewing behind his dark sunglasses. "They can go," he said softly, "but they'll regret it." As the group prepared to leave, a truck full of armed men appeared at the nearby airstrip in Port Kaituma. Witnesses heard shouting, then gunfire. Within minutes, 5 people were dead, including Congressman Ryan. Back in Jonestown, Jim Jones made an announcement over the loudspeakers. His voice, once full of warmth, now trembled with fury. "They're coming for us," he warned. "They'll destroy everything we've built." People began to gather in the central pavilion, unsure what to do. Mothers clutched their children. Workers froze in place. Then came the order. Jones told them it was time for revolutionary suicide. He promised it would be peaceful, a way to choose dignity over oppression. Some followers cried. Others obeyed silently. A large metal vat was brought forward, the air filled with the sweet, artificial scent of fruit drink. Jones raised his megaphone and spoke softly. "Don't be afraid. Death is just stepping over." His words carried across the camp, echoing through the trees. Not everyone wanted to drink. Some tried to run, others shouted in confusion. But his most loyal guards, called the Red Brigade, stood at the edges, ensuring no one left. As the chaos grew, a woman screamed, "Jim, you're killing us!" Jones didn't flinch. "We're freeing you," he said. "This world is not for us anymore." Moments later, the pavilion fell silent. By the time the Guyanese authorities arrived, more than 900 people were gone. Mothers, fathers, and nearly 300 children. But as they searched the compound, one thing didn't make sense. Among the rows of bodies, Jim Jones was found alone, dead from a single gunshot wound. Not the Drin's key bullet, and no one knew who pulled the trigger. The voice of control. Hit subscribe before we go deeper, because the truth behind Jonestown isn't just about poison, It's about power and how one man convinced hundreds to die for him. Before the world called him a madman, Jim Jones was seen as a prophet. He began in the 1950s as a charismatic preacher from Indiana, a man who preached racial equality, compassion, and social justice when few dared to. He called his church the People's Temple, a community where everyone, regardless of race or background, could belong. People loved him. He healed the sick, fed the poor, and promised a better world. Politicians shook his hand. Reporters praised his progressive message. But behind the sermons and smiles was something darker. Jones didn't just want followers, he wanted control. He demanded loyalty, obedience, and secrets. He told his congregation to call him Father. He claimed he could heal cancer, read minds, even raise the dead. Every miracle was staged, every confession recorded. Slowly, faith turned into fear. By the mid-1970s, Jones had built a massive following in California, but as rumors of abuse, manipulation, and financial fraud surfaced, he panicked. "America is rotten," he told his flock. "They want to destroy us." So, he proposed something radical, a move to the jungles of South America, a new Eden, a safe haven, a place where God's people could live free from persecution. He called it Jonestown. Over 1,000 people followed him, doctors, teachers, families, even former activists. They sold everything, left their homes, and boarded planes believing they were joining a utopia. At first, it looked like one. Wooden cottages lined the dirt paths, children played under the tropical sun, and banners read, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it." But paradise began to rot. Armed guards patrolled the camp. Letters home were censored. Anyone caught trying to escape was publicly humiliated or beaten. Every night, Jones broadcast his voice through loudspeakers, long rambling speeches about enemies, spies, and conspiracies. His followers called it White Night. They worked 12-hour days in the fields. Food was scarce, medicine locked away. Jones, meanwhile, sat in his cabin with imported alcohol and a private radio link to San Francisco. He called it sacrifice for the cause. Children learned to chant his slogans, "Father knows best." Some began to believe he was God. Others, trapped by fear and isolation, simply pretended to. Then came the first escapees. A few managed to flee into the Guyanese jungle, their feet bleeding, their bodies shaking. When they reached the U.S. Embassy, they told stories of starvation, imprisonment, and forced loyalty. Their words shocked officials. The American government couldn't ignore it anymore. Congressman Leo Ryan, known for investigating human rights abuses, announced he would personally visit Jonestown. Jones welcomed him, publicly calling it a great honor. Privately, he saw it as betrayal. When Ryan arrived on November 17, 1978, the entire settlement transformed overnight. Smiling faces, songs, and rehearsed performances greeted him. "We're happy here," they shouted on camera. The visitors, though uneasy, saw no danger. Until night fell. One member of the delegation found a note slipped into his pocket. Scrawled in shaky handwriting were 6 desperate words. "Help us. Please get us out." By morning, a handful of families gathered at the small airstrip nearby. Jones, sweating behind his sunglasses, watched them leave. To his followers, he said, "Those who betray us are the living dead." Moments later, armed men from Jonestown sped toward the airstrip in a tractor-trailer. The passengers never saw it coming. Gunfire erupted across the TA, or MAX. Congressman Ryan and 4 others were killed instantly. Back at Jonestown, Jim Jones turned on the loudspeakers again. His voice, once calm, now sounded frantic. "They've attacked us," he shouted. "The enemy is coming. The time has come for the ultimate sacrifice." He called it a revolutionary act of love. Women cried. Children clung to their parents. The guards began to gather the people in the pavilion. A large vat of purple drink was prepared, laced with cyanide and sedatives. Jones lifted the microphone and whispered, "Don't fear death. Death is just a step to freedom." The loudspeakers echoed across the jungle. And then, one by one, Jonestown began to drink. The last sermon. If you think you've heard every horror story, stay to the end, because this one wasn't fiction. It was faith turned fatal. Hit subscribe before we step into the final moments of Jonestown. The jungle was quiet. Too quiet. The sun had fallen behind the dense green canopy, and all that could be heard was the soft hum of generators and the trembling voice of Jim Jones echoing through the settlement's loudspeakers. He sat behind a wooden desk in the pavilion, sweating heavily, gripping a microphone with shaking hands. Around him, chaos swirled. Mothers held their children. Elderly followers wept softly. Some still clung to hope that this was another one of Jones's rehearsals, another white night drill. But this time, it wasn't a drill. Guards known as the Red Brigade stood at the edges of the crowd, with rifles slung across their shoulders. A large steel vat sat in the center of the pavilion, filled with a purple, sweet-smelling liquid, Flavor Aid, laced with cyanide, tranquilizers, and sedatives. Paper cups were laid out neatly on a wooden table beside it. Jones's voice cracked through the speaker system. "We can't live under their rule anymore," he said. "They will come here, and they will torture our children. Let's choose peace. Let's choose dignity." In the crowd, some followers sobbed. Others nodded, numb from exhaustion. Whether it was suicide or someone else's hand, no one ever proved. The bodies were flown back to the United States, row after row of coffins filling cargo planes. The world watched in shock as the photos appeared on television screens. People asked the same question over and over. How could this happen? The answer wasn't simple. Jones didn't kill with weapons or power. He killed with words. He built devotion, then turned it into destruction. In the years that followed, Jonestown became more than a name. It became a warning, a symbol of what happens when faith turns into fear and when charisma becomes control. Survivors who fled that day still say they hear his voice sometimes, that soft, almost kind tone whispering, "Don't be afraid." They remember the sound of the jungle, the cries, the silence, the lesson that even paradise can become a graveyard when truth dies in the name of devotion. If this story shook you, the next one will leave you speechless. Hit subscribe, tap like, and turn on the bell. Because next time, we'll uncover another case where blind trust became deadly. Until then, stay curious, stay cautious, and never forget, real horror doesn't hide in shadows. It hides in plain sight.